Should I learn Python now, or is learning a programming language outdated? Hey, it's Jacob. Welcome to this new video, and today I want to talk about whether today is a good time to learn Python. By the end of this video, you'll be 100% clear on what to do next using a simple formula. You're gonna learn if ChatGPT can replace Python. Can low-code and no-code replace Python? And you'll have two questions to ask yourself to make sure that you make the right choice. If you are asking yourself that question, whether you should be learning Python or not, you might also be wondering how to create your own AI. And I created a complete roadmap in order to answer that very question. This is a very complicated subject, and so that's the reason why I created this online course for completely free, so that you can implement your AI today and get started even when you don't have any technical background. You can click on the link in the description and you'll get it for free. Now let's dive in. Now, maybe you never wrote code and you're really bad at math and you're feeling very intimidated by Python and kind of lost, and so that might not be worth it for you to try to learn Python. Maybe that's what you're thinking right now. Or maybe you feel like there is a huge barrier of entry, and maybe you've even tried in the past, but it was a huge waste of time because you didn't stick to it and you didn't move forward with it. You might also be thinking like, well, when you see ChatGPT today, then we don't necessarily need to use Python or to know how to code because ChatGPT can actually do that for us. So it's going to be completely obsolete in a few years. Why even put the time in? It's going to be a huge waste of time. Now, you might have tried a few things in the past, but they didn't really work for a few reasons. Maybe you've tried to buy a book or learn it from an online course or from YouTube videos, but the problem is it wasn't the type of exercises where you saw the point of learning about how to do that and trying to learn about that. Like some type of Hello World program that didn't really made sense because it didn't have a real world application, or it was a little bit too academical. And the problem is they don't necessarily explain why you need to learn those things. And you might be a little bit skeptical about those Hello World programs that don't necessarily have real world applications, and you might want something a little bit more practical. And if that's what you're thinking, well, just because people don't address that issue doesn't mean you're wrong about it. If it doesn't have real world applications, it might not be useful to you, and therefore it might not be the way to go. You might have also tried to go with a low-code or no-code solution using things like Make or using things like Zapier or whatever the low-code or no-code solution might be. And you might have realized very quickly that low-code and no-code isn't that easy actually. And it might even be extremely complicated. And then you look online on how to fix those issues that you might have encountered with using those tools, and it was a nightmare, quite frankly. And then you ended up like spending tons and tons of time using those types of things, trying to fix things here and there to get to a result that just wasn't quite satisfying. And it just ended up being a huge waste of time. And here is the trick though. Some people might have the wrong conclusion, because if they think no-code and low-code solutions are complicated, what about actual code? It might be so complex. If even the no-code and low-code solutions are complicated, then there is no way I'm even going to be able to do something with actual code, right? That's a good way to think, but that just happened to be wrong. There are a few reasons why no-code and low-code can actually be a lot more complicated. The thing is, low-code and no-code is going to make it a lot more difficult to find information about that, just because they are proprietary tools that you need to pay for, and therefore there is just less documentation about it. There is going to be some, but not as much as Python, for example, or any programming language for that matter. Large language models are going to do a really bad job at helping you fixing those types of issues. They're going to help for sure, but What if, let's say, any tool that you're working on is getting updated? Then the large language model is not going to tell you where to find the settings that are going to help. There is also just a lot less people working on those tools, working with those tools, that working with code. It's just mathematically, there's just way more people working with code. And so because of that, the communities that are going to create content around those issues is going to be bigger. It's just going to be a lot bigger. And so because of that, it's going to be a lot easier to troubleshoot code than it's going to be to troubleshoot those types of tools. Also, the tutorials, like it's going to be the same thing, right? Documentation is not just about troubleshooting, it's also about learning the tool. So the conclusion that just because it just was very complicated to use a no-code or low-code solution, then that must mean that actual code is impossible is just not correct. How about in a few years, AI is going to be able to do all of the code for us, so we don't even need to worry about it and we don't need to waste any time learning about that. This one is actually not completely wrong, but I think there is a misconception about what that means, about you wanting to learn Python and how it's going to affect people and the world in a few years. And by the way, if you've been thinking any of those things, don't think that this is your fault or that you're not smart enough or whatever the thing might be, because just understand that this is where the money is. People have an incentive to make you believe that this is what you should think. Low-code, no-code approaches are not free. AI is not free. Books are not free. And so all of this is very confusing by design. And so where is the truth then? What should I do? Should I learn it or not? It's a really simple question. And in order to answer that question, we need to understand one simple thing. There is nothing new under the sun. Now, this might seem to you very counterintuitive, but hear me out. This is not the first time we realized that there is another way to get the code that we want to create with Python for better, faster, and cheaper. When we realized that we could outsource everything to cheaper countries, like India. Now, does this mean that everything gets outsourced to India today? Not really, right? And so what are the things that get outsourced then? Well, things that are not super relevant, super impactful, and well contained. Because essentially, people have understood now that as soon as you start outsourcing, what you get is a black box. If you have a project or a company that is essentially black boxes, then it's going to become very complicated to have a consistent thing. And so we thought like, oh, outsourcing is the solution. We can outsource everything and everybody else is going to do the work. We don't have to work anymore. So those were the expectations, but the reality was it was just more management. Now, before I keep going, to avoid all of those issues that I talked about and implement AI correctly and create your own AI, you can click on the link in the description. I created a course exactly to give you the complete roadmap to get started. Now, obviously, I'm using the analogy of outsourcing to talk about AIs, right? But that's essentially what is happening right now, meaning that we have more management and we manage AIs as opposed to other people that work. And that's where we get to the ultimate question. How do we manage AIs? I mean, what does that even mean? And the answer is very simple, with Python. So let's say, for example, you have an AI here, you give it a task, and then you get an output. But then you need to check that this output is correct. So you use a different AI to do that. And then you can move forward and create another AI here and take the output of the thing that has been corrected and then keep moving forward with it and get a different output. And then check this one out. And then guess what? This AI here is going to give you an output as well. And so that's how you use Python to create an AI here. This is how you do it. And now this is not a black box anymore. And now here's the question you might ask. what if you have an AI that can do all of this at once, right? What if it becomes more powerful and then you don't need that Python code, right? Well, then it's going to just become more, you're just going to become more powerful as someone that can do more tasks and more things because you're going to expand. If that is going to become the unit, then it doesn't change the architecture of what you're building. It's just going to be here, that big thing there. This thing is going to be in that. And then you'll be able to do more and more things faster and faster. That's how AI is not about replacing or not replacing Python. It's about enhancing the capabilities of what we can do at a specific period of time. And that's not new, that's always been happening. It was the case with outsourcing. It's just much cheaper with AI. What it actually means now is that it is going to become easier and easier to do more and more things, creating apps, creating products, turning ideas into products. But guess what? At the same time, it's going to become easier for everybody else. And so that just means there is going to be more and more competition. And so now that you know all of this, let me ask you 2 questions that are going to help you decide whether or not you should learn Python. The first question is, do you want to solve real-world problems? And the second one is, do you want the ability to turn your ideas into products? If the answer to either of those questions is yes, then learning Python is going to be very useful for you because that is how you're going to manage the AIs. Even if there are AIs under the hood, that is what you're going to need in order to implement those different types of AIs in order to solve those problems or in order to turn your ideas into products. Now, I know that if you're just getting started and you want to learn Python to create your own AI, it's very difficult to do that. And that's the reason why I created your complete roadmap to implement your first AI today when you're non-technical. And I show you exactly an example of using Python to implement an AI. You can click on the link in the description to get started. It's completely free. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.